Boogeyman band coming round the bend. Is boogeyman band. Is boogeyman band.
Tribute. Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone channel. I hope everyone's doing well. This is part 7 of my quiet little tribute to Salem's Lot series. I'm so glad that so many people enjoy this series. It's really been a lot of fun doing them this year. I have more planned for 2023, as well as the book I'm working on, focusing on my love of everything Salem's Lot. One of the biggest characters in the film for me is the score, the amazing score by the late great Harry Sukman. Salem's Lot was the swan song to his career. He would pass away 5 years after the movie came out. And I still remember the day that this went on sale. This was from Waxwork Records. This is the first Waxwork Records purchase I ever made, and I didn't even have a turntable when this came out. Yeah, it's an amazing release. It's 2 vinyl records. It is the entire original television soundtrack. Now I do also have it from Entrada, which I got in 2013 on CD, and this was a huge thing for me as well. I didn't know a lot about the man, but again, thanks to the great Tony Earnshaw and his amazing book, Studies in the Horror Film. There's a terrific interview that Tony Earnshaw did with Harry Sukman's daughter, Susan Sukman McCrae. And yeah, this was really fascinating to learn more about her father's work, about just what went into composing this amazing score for Salem's Lot. And this was a great interview, and it really gave me a lot of insight into the man that created what I think is the most scariest horror score ever made. So I hope everyone enjoys this segment, and once I have run through the breakdown of Mr. Sukman's career and his life, I will come back for my final thoughts. Here we go. Harry Sukman was born in Chicago in 1912. He started his musical career in the 1920s when he was a teenager. He composed musical scores for movies like Salem's Lot. He married Francesca Paley in 1946, and the two stayed married until his death. They had one child, Susan McCrae. He won an Oscar and was nominated for 2 Oscars. He won the Best Musical Score Oscar at the 1960 Academy Awards, shared with Morris Stoloff, to Song Without End. He was also nominated for Fanny and The Singing Nun. All 3 were in Best Score. Sukman died of a heart attack on his 72nd birthday, December 2nd, 1984. Some of the television shows that he did musical scores for were Bonanza. He worked on The Cowboys. He worked on Police Story, and he also worked on the John Carpenter film Someone's Watching Me. Producer of Salem's Lot, Richard Koberts, was extremely complimentary about your father, composer Harry Sukman, and his work on the show. Richard always felt that Salem's Lot was really a movie, a feature film as opposed to a TV special, and he gathered around him people who had experience and expertise in that field. Your father was one of them. My father and Richard became good friends and respected each other very much. When my father came up with the idea for a cue or a theme, he would call Richard to come over so he could share it with him. Invariably, whatever my dad would play put a smile on what I call admiration and delight on Richard's face. Yes, my father scored the movie of the week, Someone's Watching Me. As I recall, Richard was a big fan of Frank Sinatra. My father knew and worked with Frank. He scored the Sinatra film, The Naked Runner in England. It was a Warner Brothers picture. When the head of the music department, an old friend of my father's, Danny Gould, suggested my father to Mr. Koberts, the reaction was very positive. Not only because my father had won an Oscar and been nominated by that time, my father came in to meet with Richard, and when he entered the office, he was greeted with the same name Frank Sinatra nicknamed him, which was Hirsch, pronounced Harish. They both laughed and became fast friends. What do you know about the brief your father was given for the music for Salem's Lot? Was he left to his own devices, or did he worked to a specific request for a certain style of music from Koberts or others at Warner Brothers? My father read the script and had an immediate thought as to how he wanted to approach the project. Dramatic, mysterious, and classical. It was all left up to him, and I think it's a good thing. It's a phenomenal score, really atmospheric, heart-pounding, and suitably gothic with a contemporary edge. Can you recall your father's work on it and perhaps where he drew his inspiration from? He drew his inspiration from classics. I know when scoring Someone's Watching Me, the first piece he thought of was composed by Vivaldi. He actually used the piece in the film as well. Though Salem's Lot was dark and needed the kind of music, there was a beautiful love theme in it as well, that theme for Bonnie Bedelia's character. My father always felt each character in the film should have its own theme. Then that theme would be incorporated in the score so the character was actually identified by that piece of music. How long did it take him to score the project, and why isn't it available on CD? First, let me say I have received so many requests and questions about a CD or a record available, and I sadly have to say that there is none. I wish Warner Brothers would delve into their archives and either record or possibly take the music track and redub it to release it. In the television business, when scoring a movie of the week or a series, there is never a lot of time. A composer is always under the gun. In this case, as I recall, he was sent the script to get an idea of what he was going to see and work with. The script is now in the Harry Sukman foyer in Hartford, Connecticut. He then went into Warner Brothers to see the film. I remember he called home right after screening it and was very impressed. He came home and started to write themes for each character, which was the norm for him. He was told, and I think I remember this correctly, he had 10 days before he had to score the picture at the studio. I believe they were 2 scoring sessions. I went to the first because I wanted to hear a theme, which I thought would sound very exciting with a big orchestra. I, just like my father, had only heard him play it on the piano. When we arrived at the stage, my father noticed that the music mixer he had asked for, Danny Wallen, was not there. Danny was always known as the best, and he was at Warner Brothers. My father said I have to wait for Danny, which actually didn't take long. He was working on something else and was called over immediately. Danny brought that up to me last time I saw him about a year ago. He said he was so flattered that my father would request and wait for him. What was Warner's reaction? I assume they were thrilled. They should have been. Danny Gould of Warner Brothers Music, who is still there, was thrilled and knew it would be great because he knew my father's work. Similarly, what was your father's reaction to the Emmy nomination? My father was very proud of the nomination. He felt he was at least hoped he was going to win because it was such a dramatic score for a television show. He was so proud, in fact, that he invited Richard Kobritz to the awards to be seated with us. When he lost, and he lost to a show not nearly as good, it was to a composer who had passed away that year. You can never beat someone who has died, my father said. He apologized to Richard for not winning. It appears to have been his last piece composed for cinema or TV. If so, it's a heck of a score to finish on. Salem's Lot was the last big score he composed. His last performance was a concert pianist on his birthday, December 2nd, 1984. After playing a Gershwin concert and taking a bow to a standing ovation, my father collapsed on stage of a heart attack. As Frank Sinatra was about to wheel out a birthday cake and sing happy birthday to him. Every year, my father performed Rhapsody in Blue in concert to benefit the Stroke Center in Palm Springs, California. Though he really didn't like Palm Springs, he drove there to appear for the charity. It was quite a shock. What were your father's thoughts on the finished 2-part show of Salem's Lot? Was he happy with the way his work was presented? He loved the way it turned out. The one thing that is always very difficult for a composer is when he goes into the booth on the scoring stage to hear a take. What he had just recorded to hear, if it's okay. The sound is fabulous. They play it up, and it's very impressive. When that same take is on the dubbing stage, things begin to change. The music isn't as pronounced and played down for dialogue, to the point even if there isn't dialogue, you lose the musical drama. Then when it shows up on the small screen with a small speaker, depressing. However, in this case, my father was on the dubbing stage, and because the music was so important to the film, drama, excitement, etc., it was played up without getting lost. He was thrilled with that. So I hope everyone enjoyed this new segment. Let me know what you guys think about Harry Sukman's music for the amazing film Salem's Lot. Let me know if any of you have purchased either the Waxwork vinyl release or the Entrada CD release of the score. I treasure both of these. They both mean the world to me, and I'm so glad to have them in my collection. Both are very hard to find now. I know that the Waxwork record itself has sold out. I've had it for 6 years. I've had the Entrada release for almost 10 years, and both of them mean the world to me, as does this amazing book by Tony Earnshaw. And this has been a tremendous resource for me in these segments. I'm so glad people are continuing to tune in. And I have a really special one to close out the year, focusing on the late, great Jeffrey Lewis. My Favorite actor from the film, someone that meant a tremendous deal to me, and I have a lot to talk about with him. Another great article or interview is in that great book by Tony Earnshaw with Jeffrey Lewis, and really insightful stuff, learning about, you know, what went into making that film and the scenes that he was in. I really enjoyed reading that, and I'm really excited to close out the year with that video with regards to this series. But I have many more planned for 2023. A lot of cool Salem's Lot stuff is coming up next year that I can't talk about right now, but I'm very, very excited. And 2023 is going to be a kick-ass year. So thanks so much, everyone, again for watching this video. Stay tuned for some more great Salem's Lot content. Take it easy, stay scared as always, and remember, you can do nothing against the master. Hey fellow Fright Fiends, just want to say thank you again for supporting Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. If you're brand new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification so you're updated every time I drop a new video. I typically do this once or twice a week with new content. I've been doing this for over 11 years, and the horror genre is a passion of mine, and it really means a lot to me that I can share that passion with all of you guys. Thanks so much again for the support, and I'll talk to you again later. Take it easy, stay scared as always. Horror Zone.